And it's interesting because President Trump is bringing a brigade of South Carolina policymakers, lawmakers up here to New Hampshire. Nikki Haley's home state is South Carolina.
Yes.
What message is President Trump sending with this move?
We're sending a loud and clear message to Nikki Haley that she has no pathway to this nomination. She never has had one. She never will has one. As you mentioned, nearly the entire South Carolina state delegation is joining President Trump here in New Hampshire tonight. We are always playing 2 steps ahead on Team Trump. And as President Trump himself has said, while we may be ahead in the polls, we're going to play like we are 1 point behind. So we're already looking ahead to South Carolina and Nevada. But of course, our main focus is on turning out the vote here on Tuesday and letting every single voter in this state know, whether they are registered Republicans or those unaffiliated voters that can vote on Tuesday, Nikki Haley cannot be trusted on the issues that matter to you and your family. She sold out South Carolina's agricultural land to the CCP. She promised to implement a 23% national federal sales tax. I cannot tell you how devastating that would be for this great state when we don't have a sales tax at all for hardworking, middle class, and low-income families who are already suffering from Bidenomics to pay 23% more every time they go to the grocery store. That's unfathomable. It's unacceptable. We cannot afford that, and we cannot afford Nikki Haley.
Facts. As you guys could probably guess, we're going to be diving into some Nikki Haley today. But I want to play some more clips for you guys. Like, share, comment, and hit that subscribe button if you are new. And today's the day for New Hampshire, guys. Today's the day. Let's dive in.
Is this Nikki Haley country? Or is this Donald Trump country?
Yeah. Gotta love it. Gotta love it, right? Gotta love it. And that was in New Hampshire, by the way. But there was a clip going viral of Nikki Haley and an encounter that she had with a veteran at Chick-fil-A, of all places. You guys are going to definitely want to see this one. It is absolutely hilarious, and I'll talk about it here in a second. Check it out.
Good
to
Dean,
see you.
nice to meet
Nice
you.
to see you, Dean. Oh, I love that. We don't get out and vote on Tuesday. It's important.
Yeah,
Good
so
stuff.
can I ask you just like a tiny question?
Yeah.
Do you think it's responsible for politicians to spend like $100 million in Iowa on TV ads, which go to mainly news stations that have lied to us for years, when there's homeless veterans out there that could use that money? When you didn't even come close to beating Trump, and you spent like $100 million in TV ad money?
Do you know my husband's a veteran?
That's fine, but I'm
He's
just
a combat
saying.
veteran.
I'm
And do
asking
you know that when the media doesn't tell the truth, the whole reason you put commercials on is to tell the truth because the media doesn't?
My point is, you're not going to beat Trump, and
You know
all
what?
of the money you're wasting could go to better causes.
I appreciate
that would make
that.
the Republican Party actually look better.
You know what?
See what I'm
Last I
saying?
saw, it was a democracy. So we're going to keep working for a good democracy. We're going to work for freedom, but thank you for your service.
Right to her face. And he's speaking facts, right? He is speaking facts. I do want to correct something, though. I'm not sure if he's a veteran. I got my memory a little mixed up there. He was speaking about homeless veterans and, you know, the money that people like Nikki Haley have spent just to lose. Allegedly, she spent upwards of $100 million. Yeah, absolutely insane just to lose. That is I agree with the guy. I happen to agree with the guy. I think that is extremely wasteful, and it's honestly just a complete waste of time. Like, we have let them know time and time again who we want. We want Trump. Like, they're not going to sway us in any other direction. And this is also one of the things why I say the left is desperate. Like, they've tried at every single turn to get Trump out of the way. Which tells me that Trump is the right guy. Also, Trump had this to say, because you guys remember, I've been saying some things about Nikki Haley possibly being a VP, and I explained my reasons why. I knew like 99.9% of you would completely disagree with me, as you guys did, which I expected, right? Of course, Nikki Haley's a rhino. But Trump had something to say about that. Check it out.
She is not presidential timber. Now, when I say that, that probably means that she's not going to be chosen as the vice president. You know, you can go.
She will not be the VP. Maybe he's throwing us for a loop here. I don't know. I highly doubt it, right? Highly, highly doubt it. Trump, he's a straight shooter, which is one of the things that I...
Okay.
Hold on. This next clip is starting to play. Excuse me, which is one of the things that I really appreciate about Trump. Goodness gracious, I'm talking like Joe Biden today. Sheesh. But, you know, once again, going back to that clip that we that you guys saw a second ago, that guy was completely right. Nikki Haley is wasting a boatload of money for no reason at all. She's doing it just to lose. This stuff is crazy. Check it out.
Okay, let's just call it as it is. It wouldn't be the eve of the New Hampshire primary without NBC's Steve Kornacki to take us through what we're watching for. We know that Nikki Haley, who finished Iowa in third place last week, needs that major boost in momentum at the polls tomorrow before the primary in her home state of South Carolina next month. After all, she finally has her one-on-one fight with the ex-president, who continues to attack her and most recently confuse her for Nancy Pelosi. Joining us now from the big board, MSNBC national political correspondent Steve Kornacki. David and Kim are here as well. Steve, take us through what we need to be focusing on.
Yeah, well, the polls certainly show that Haley is running from behind in New Hampshire, 19 points in this morning's NBC 10 Boston Globe Suffolk tracking poll of the state. So, look, if she's going to pull an upset tomorrow night, and it would be a huge upset if she were able to win this thing tomorrow night, but if Nikki Haley's going to, couple things to look for as these are all the cities and towns in New Hampshire. These are not counties. They do things a little different in New England. They don't report the votes by county. They report them by individual and city towns. So we will be filling in individual cities and towns as they come in tomorrow night. So a couple things to look for that'll tell us if Haley is actually pulling any kind of a surprise. I'll call up the 2016 results as a point of reference here, remembering that Trump won the state by 20 points over his nearest competitor, John Kasich, but it was a very spread out Republican vote. There was Jeb Bush, there was Marco Rubio, there was Chris Christie, there was Ted Cruz. There were a lot of different candidates. As you say, now it's one-on-one. So if you're Haley, first of all, look, this little portion right along the Connecticut River, this was Kasich's strongest area in the state. This was basically Trump's worst area in the state. So this is somewhere, you know, Lebanon, New Hampshire. I'll just show you the result right there. Kasich actually won it. Haley needs to be running up a massive landslide here. Even in defeat, she probably will. Hanover, where Dartmouth College is immediately north of that. You've got Lyme, you've got Orford, you've got this whole area in here. Look, even if she loses, Haley's winning it. The question is, how big is she going to win that area? But what really has to happen for Haley to have a chance, just tick through here, the three biggest cities in the state. So we'll start with Manchester. This is the largest city in the state. And look, again, on paper, this was an easy Trump win, obviously. He won it by 24 points. But if you look at the demographic mix, if you look at the history of Manchester in these primaries, this is actually a city that is, I think, could be pretty much a bellwether. If Haley probably needs to win it. I mean, not by a huge margin, but if we see returns start coming in from Manchester and it's pretty close to even, a couple points one way or the other, that's a sign that Haley is overperforming considerably. Same is true in Nashua, second largest city in the state. Again, you see the 2016 result here, but in a one-on-one, Haley needs probably to be winning this by several points. Nashua was an 8 p.m. poll close. Much of the state is 7 p.m. Nashua, the biggest city in New Hampshire, to close at 8. The third largest city, Concord, the state capital here. See the results from 2016. This is one where the mix means Haley has to win this one big. You know, we're talking high 50s, 60%, something like that. that out of Concord. Also true along the coast here in Portsmouth. Again, Haley would need to be getting a massive, massive number here. A couple bellwethers we can just talk about, bellwether towns as the returns come in. Here's a good one right outside Manchester, suburbs, Goffstown. This is one where I think, again, if the result tomorrow is matching the polls, Trump's winning Goffstown comfortably. If Haley's pulling a surprise and has a chance to win statewide, she's in contention to win a town like Goffstown. It'd be close, but she'd be in contention. Same would be true in Londonderry. That's another good one we can keep an eye on as a potential bellwether. Go over here, Weston, Nashua, Milford. These are bellwethers here. Remember, in New Hampshire, so much of the population and so much of the vote is really going to come from this southeast portion of the state. A lot of these border communities and just north of these border communities here, a lot of commuters into Massachusetts, down to Boston. So you got some pretty high population towns here, and a ton of the vote is really going to come out of this area. So I'm giving you some of the bellwethers in that part of the state, but there are some others we could also show you further. But again, the bottom line here is for Haley, 3 biggest cities. I think 2 of them are close to bellwethers. The third, she's got to be winning big. She's got to be winning big in a place like Portsmouth, a place like Keene in southwest New Hampshire, the Currier and Ives corner of New Hampshire, as they call it. That's what she would need to do. If the results start coming in tomorrow night and you're seeing something like that, then you're seeing the makings of a very close race. If not, you're seeing what the polls are showing now.
Wow.
The big variable in New Hampshire is the presence of independent voters and the presence of them in very big numbers. That's clearly what Haley's counting on if she's going to make any kind of a surprise and win this state tomorrow night, because the polling generally looks something like this. This is the brand new NBC 10 Suffolk poll from New Hampshire out this morning. Trump 57, Haley 38. This one taken without Ron DeSantis dropping out yesterday. So a 19-point lead there for the former president. And I think if you look inside this poll, it kind of tells the story of what Haley's up against and what she's going to have to show in the next 24 hours that she has yet to show. It's this. This poll overall has Trump ahead by 19 points. But look, among those who say they are Republicans, Trump leads by 54, 76 to 22. And among those who say they're independent, Haley's doing really, really well. Remember, in Iowa, she actually lost barely, but she did lose the independent vote to Trump. And she was strong with independents relative to everyone else, but she lost it in this poll in New Hampshire. And these numbers will bounce around poll to poll because the subsamples are pretty small. But this generally gives you a sense of the divide that's shaping up here. She's doing great among independents, but she is getting absolutely swamped among Republicans. And you put those two groups together, those numbers together, and it adds up to Trump with a nearly 20-point advantage in this poll. So, again, the modern rule in Republican primaries in New Hampshire has been if you can win the independent vote, you'll win the primary. The independents, look at this, in 2016, the last time around, they made up 42% of the Republican electorate in New Hampshire. Trump won them. Trump won the state. 2012, no Democratic race, so a lot more independents gravitated to the Republican side. 45% of the Republican electorate was independent. Romney won them. Romney won the state. McCain in 2008, it was 37%. Independents won the state. And McCain, by the way, in 2000, when he beat George W. Bush, 61% of the independent vote. That's how he won the state. So Haley is getting good numbers with independents, but she's going to have to get out of this world numbers with them, and she's going to have to do better than these polls are indicating with core Republicans, or the numbers just aren't going to add up for her in New Hampshire. And Anna, if they don't add up for her in New Hampshire, it's hard to find a state where they possibly could.
I think I hear her campaign saying, so you're telling me there's a chance. And that's what they're banking on.
That's it. It is, yeah.
I can't imagine this.
She has zero shot. Zero shot. In my humble opinion. Now, as Uncle Trump has said, we should always play like we're a few points behind, right? That should always be the mindset. And I've stated this time and time again. The only thing that worries me is people not showing up. That's the only thing. I'm not too worried about anything else at this point. I'm not too worried about anything else. I expect the Democrats, to do something, to cry, complain, right, to try something. But in my humble opinion, if we show up the way that we should, and in the numbers that I expect us to, none of it will matter. None of it will matter. it will be such overwhelming numbers that I don't care what the left does. Trump's walking back into that White House. Doesn't matter. But it's also great to see that Republicans aren't, buying into the crap of Nikki Haley. She's polling at, what was that number? It's like 22% or 20% with registered Republicans, right? Rhinos. You know what I'm saying? But so that's also great to see that by and large, Republicans aren't buying into the BS. That's fantastic to see. Absolutely fantastic to see. But I also want to play this clip. Where is it? Actually, you know what? I'll play the whole thing. Check out this next clip from Steve. Check it out.
Steve, what's the state of play 48 hours out?
Well, Kristen, you mentioned it, New Hampshire, with those surprise late comebacks we've seen in past primaries. There's a reason that has happened in New Hampshire, and you just mentioned it too. Independent voters. They make up a huge share of the presidential primary electorate in New Hampshire, more than you see basically in any other state. How big? Let's put some numbers to it right here. These are the past 3 competitive Republican primaries in New Hampshire. These are Republican primaries, but look, in 2016, more than 4 in 10 voters in that Republican primary was an independent. In 2012, 45%. In 2008, 37%. Those are awfully big numbers for a party primary. And the rule in New Hampshire has been you win the independent vote. Donald Trump did in 2016. Mitt Romney did in 2012. John McCain did in 2008. And you win New Hampshire. So if there is going to be a surprise on Tuesday night, and that would probably be Haley more than DeSantis, just based on the polling, Haley would need independent voters to come through for her, and she would need them to come through for her big, because if you just take a look at the latest polling we've seen out of New Hampshire just this morning, a brand new poll from the Boston Globe, NBC 10, Suffolk, Donald Trump with a 19-point advantage over Nikki Haley in New Hampshire in this poll. Another recent poll from St. A's in New Hampshire, a 14-point lead for Trump over Haley. So she is now 48 hours away, facing what looks like a double-digit deficit in New Hampshire. But those independents do loom as the wild card, because as you can see here in both of these polls, Haley is doing much better with the independent voters than she is overall. So the formula for Haley obviously is two-part here. Number one, she wants a big independent turnout. We showed you 45% back in 2012. She wants something along those lines in the Republican primary on Tuesday. But second of all, while she's doing well with independents in these polls, she's got to do a lot better. Because when you talk about core Republican voters, all the polls show they are disproportionately with Trump. So Haley, with the large independent voter population there in New Hampshire, has the opportunity to counter Trump's strength with core Republicans, but she's going to have to drive up huge numbers among independents, bigger than you're seeing in this poll. The best a Republican candidate in New Hampshire's done with independent voters go back to 2000. John McCain, he was running against George W. Bush. He won independents 61 to 19%. I mean, it may take something on that scale for Nikki Haley if she's going to catch Donald Trump here. But we mentioned, the size of the independent vote. Again, last time around, it was 42% in New Hampshire. To put this in further perspective, just last Monday night in Iowa, independents were only 16% of that caucus electorate. One of the huge differences between New Hampshire and Iowa. There are others. Remember, Iowa, majority evangelical on the Republican side. In New Hampshire, much more secular. Only a quarter of the Republican electorate. Look at suburban voters, basically double in New Hampshire what they were in Iowa. These are groups that Haley did very well with in Iowa. This is a group she didn't do well with. So you see the demographic mix here, the ideological mix in New Hampshire, much more favorable to Haley. It just screams if she's going to get a win on the board and make this a race, this is the state to do it in. Because where do things go from here? Well, if, let's say, Haley were to get a win in New Hampshire and get a bunch of momentum, it goes to her home state. On paper, you'd think that's good news for her. But look at the makeup of South Carolina. You go right back to 72% evangelical. You have fewer moderates than in New Hampshire. far fewer independent voters. That mix in South Carolina looks more like Iowa than it does like New Hampshire. So that would be, we're jumping ahead here, but if Haley can get a monster number from independents and pull the surprise in New Hampshire, she could extend the race to her home state, but then she would have to do something in South Carolina. So far, we haven't seen her doing, and that's expand that appeal beyond independents, beyond suburbanites, beyond moderates, and get into that core base of the Republican Party that likes Donald Trump, Kristen, and has been resistant to Nikki Haley so far.
Yeah. So yeah, we got to get out and get out in force, right, in support of Trump. And I think if Trump wins by 20 plus points, Nikki will drop out. She'll have no choice, because like you just heard him say right there, this is the only place that she could possibly get a W. This is it. If she doesn't win here, it's a wrap. Now, I do think if it's only 10 points, maybe even 15, she still continues and tries to spin it in a way, right? But if Trump wins by 20 plus points, if we show up and show out for Trump the way that we should, it's over. It's over. Mark my words. If Trump wins by 20 plus points, Nikki is dropping out. She's dropping out. I don't care how much, money she has backing her. When Trump wins by 20, if Trump wins by 20 plus points, she's dropping out. That's my prediction. If it's less than 20 points, she'll stay in. She'll stay in and waste our time, waste a bunch of money, right? Until South Carolina, when she gets beaten a landslide, then she'll drop out there maybe. But that's my humble opinion on it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, comment, hit that subscribe button before you go. Don't forget, go play your part. Show up. That's what counts. I'm out.